welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners meeting for May 8th, 2018. And let's all stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking at our agenda then, is there any changes or any updates?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then this morning we've got something special going on. I'm trying to remember what it is. Or is that why we have such a large audience here this morning? But that's not everybody here, is it? It looks like there's some people that just couldn't make it. Well, today we have a special start to the board meeting, and as we congratulate our 2018 Citizens Academy participants on their completion of the program. And the Blue Earth County Citizens Academy has been meeting on Tuesday evenings throughout this spring. It began on March 20th and concludes tonight because they had to postpone one due to the weather, I know.
Imagine that.
To do a makeup session, yeah. This is the 10th graduating class. It's a milestone. Over the past weeks, the group has been given behind-the-scenes look at county government operations and has learned from a variety of county leaders about the services that the county offers. On behalf of Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners, I commend all of you for taking the initiative and the time to apply for this program and for your commitment to show up here every Tuesday evening and to learn about our county government. We are extremely proud of this group and past groups and are so glad that we had you in our program. At this time, each of you will receive a certificate of completion for participating in this Blue Earth County Citizens Academy. The certificate certifies that each of you has successfully completed the program and congratulates you on your commitment to being an engaged citizen. Does it say you get a discount on property taxes?
No.
Maybe we got to work that into the program, just for the year.
Can I make a quick comment? I would thank Amy ever so much. She has done a tremendous
Oh, good,
job.
yeah.
Everybody that we dealt with, every county employee, was truly enthusiastic and helpful. Answered so many
Wonderful.
questions.
Good to hear.
Our sessions went over. We were just
Thank you for saying that. So if nobody heard it, one of the participants was just so thankful on behalf of the group that Amy put a lot of good effort into organizing all this, and all the staff, all the supervisors and all the other staff that were involved in the program, and was thanking us for that. So we're on camera, and so usually if we have a public hearing, which it's not, we invite you up to the podium to go ahead and speak. But in a few minutes, though, we'll be having you all come up and receive your certificate and thanking you individually. And so Amy will be here to help us present with your certificate and receive your county coin. I'm not going to tell you what it's made out of, but very precious metal. So should we all stand up and... Well, this side, I think you did on that side.
Nice tie. Fun.
Very good.
Set it aside if that's okay.
Everybody's ready?
Yeah, we'll get started. I'm going to read off the names in alphabetical order, and then you guys can come forward to receive them. You can just come up this way, and then walk down the line and shake hands with all the commissioners. But first, before we get started, I just wanted to thank you guys for being part of this group. You've been a really good group. We've had so many positive comments about how inquisitive you guys have been, how many questions you like to ask, and that's such a good thing. That's what we want. We want you guys to ask those questions. So I've enjoyed getting to know you. We've got one more session tonight, so we've still got that to get through, so.
For final graduation.
That's right, yeah.
So I hope you're gonna read all the names. even if
I'm
they're
gonna
not
read
here.
all the names,
Okay,
yep, and I
good.
can just take the
Thank you.
ones that aren't here. So the first is Mohammed Abdi Ahmed, and he is not. Audrey Gatchel.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been fun. Thank you.
Did you get a pewter? Pewter. It's pewter, doesn't it? It's pewter. The metal is pewter. Precious pewter. Precious.
Tamara Hansen.
Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you,
Wonderful.
and that's been wonderful, I appreciate it. Great insight, thank you, I appreciate that too.
Thank you so much.
Very impressive.
You got something more than good.
Yeah.
Joan Hartman.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Larry Hartman.
So shake your hand first.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. That was a big part of it. Very good. Thank you, Larry. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Molly Rushka. Stephanie Janet. Todd Henward. Yeah, right.
Thanks so much. Thank you for being part of this. Yeah. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Todd.
Tiffany Lamb.
Thanks so much.
Michelle Lindell.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ahmed Mohammed. He's not here this morning. Kristen Nett. I think she's going to be a little late. Oh, did I skip one? Audrey Morgan. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now it's Kristen Nett. She's going to be joining us just a little late. Hussein Osman. Tim Pulis.
Hey, Tim.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Good work, guys. Thank you for your time. Number two is next.
Randy Sorensen. Diane Thormanson.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem, thanks for the fun. Thank you.
Jenny Wagner.
Thank you.
Really?
Oh, good.
Thank you so much.
And Tom Waite, who's not here. And then we had one person come in late, the first.
Yeah, they're
Yep,
here.
that's
I'm all set.
Mohammed Abdi Ahmed. That's right.
Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Well, welcome back. That was a nice little celebration with the folks that partook in our Citizens Academy recognition this morning. Let's go ahead with the rest of our agenda here then. And we've got, I think, Ryan Tilgis, our county engineer, in the audience today for Public Works.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning, Ryan.
We're actually saved the best for last for Citizens Academy. They're coming to Public Works tonight.
Oh, that's right. That was
Yeah.
why they
We
couldn't
were
make
snowed
it.
out previously, so
You had the guys out working too, didn't you?
yeah, April showers bring snow flowers.
Snow flowers.
Snow plows.
No, yes, snow flowers.
Snow plowers.
Snow flowers. I oddly enough have no action items on the agenda today,
see
but I
that.
do have a lot of informational items.
Yeah.
Things tend to ebb and flow in our department, and even without the action items, we're still staying very, very busy at Public Works. So we'll go through the informational items first. The construction projects update. The 3 bridges on County State Aid Highway number 5 are under construction again. As you recall, the decks were replaced over the
Yep.
course of the winter. It was temporarily reopened to traffic until conditions were more suitable for the road construction. So the crews were out there working on the approach grading, guardrail installation, and remaining paving and turf establishment work. The road was closed last Wednesday the 2nd, and we anticipate that project will be complete by early June, reopened for the prime construction season for all of the aggregates that go up and down that heavily industrial use road. County State Aid Highway 14 segment from 4 to 10 was closed yesterday for the remaining aggregate base paving, shouldering, and turf establishment. We anticipate that project will be completed by early June. County State Aid Highway 12, the 5th stage of the 12 extension, the road was closed last Wednesday as well for the remaining grading, aggregate base, curb and gutter, paving, turf establishment, signing, and striping. We have an interim completion date of June 15th for the road from Highway 83 to the north through the Hoffman roundabout to the intersection with Carver Road, tying Carver back into the existing road. So that segment, as well as the piece of Hoffman from the Prairie Winds roundabout to the 12 roundabout, is to be completed by June 15th per the revised contract amendment. And then the remainder of the road to the north, including the intersection with 17 at the south side of that roundabout at 17 and 12, is supposed to be completed by August 15th per the contract. So we're still pushing to have the whole road open prior to school resuming as our target.
Wow, good.
So it's a busy start to the spring now that the weather has finally arrived to support those activities. As part of our collaborative project with MnDOT, where they're actually taking the lead on project administration, construction observation, and contracting, the 90 and Minnesota Highway 22 roundabout. Work is underway on Trunk Highway 22 from 10 to 15. After that is completed, then they'll move on to the roundabout reconstruction. That's anticipated to be mid-June when that'll begin. So they are working. I just met with MnDOT's project engineer yesterday on some revisions to access. They're trying to add in some turn lanes south of there for the businesses, so increase the access and improve the access points. But they're going to try to shoehorn that into the existing contract, which gets to be fairly tight. The County Road 109 project, the regrading from last year, was followed up with a subsequent paving contract. They're anticipated to begin in a couple of weeks on about the week of May 21st. They've got 30 working days, so about a month and a half to complete that contract, so that should be done midsummer. And then the bituminous overlays is also the same contractor, Central Specialties out of Alex. They'll be working the overlays in with the 109 project, kind of doing them concurrently and shortly thereafter, so hitting a lot of our paving. They're looking at moving their crusher and setting up their temporary batch plant here in the next few weeks so that they can begin work.
Can I just ask a
Yeah.
question or make
Please
a
do.
comment? Had a couple of the farmers in that area talk about the approaches on the blacktop. They're concerned that they will be tearing up the blacktop with their big tractors and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I just wanted us to be aware of
Okay.
their concerns
And
on that.
We'll go with a pretty hefty section
Yeah,
out
okay.
there, and it'll go, you know, out past the culvert line, if not
Yeah.
to the right of way on those approaches, and it's what we've done on every other highway and haven't had
Excellent.
any issues, but we'll keep an eye on it. That's the benefit of doing it the year before as far as the grading and letting it sit over the course of the winter. So if you do get any soft spots, they tend to work themselves out over the course of a freeze-thaw cycle. But we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you for the heads up. County State Highway 52 bridge. The old bridge has been removed. The new bridge abutments are poured and in place. The bridge beams are set. The deck pour is pending. It's on hold right now because the bridge railing materials have not been fabricated yet, and we're using the open steel bridge railings that let the snow blow through, or the snow plows blow the snow through the railings, and that requires that the anchor bolts be cast into the bridge deck, so we have to have the right spacing, the right locations for them. So hence we need the railings fabricated before we can pour the bridge deck. That'll be one of the last few bridges that we're able to do the steel bridge railings on, because the state has updated their crash design standards to heavier vehicles, and right now the steel railings are fine, but they don't perform at as high of a level as they're fine for the standards that bridge was designed to, but the new design standards use heavier vehicles as the standard. So they're saying, you know, if they're evaluating a pickup truck from the 1990s is not as heavy or as big as a pickup truck from, you know, this era.
Which bridge is that? Is that the?
52 is
52?
northeast of Mapleton.
Okay.
So it's like it's grandfathered in?
They're grandfathered in because at the time it was the acceptable design. It was, and frankly, we prefer the open steel railings from the standpoint of the maintenance and the aesthetics that they provide. We like them more, but we're being inhibited on using them right now. They're doing some additional testing. It may become, designs may be revised in the future, and it may become available as a tool to us again. The Pleasant Mound Township Bridge that we're working on, that's actually getting torn out today, that will have concrete parapets, bridge railing, so that'll be a concrete bridge rail.
And then what's the design of that bridge rail then? I mean, these are rural bridges, I know, but just wondering, I know years ago there used to be sort of just a high solid slab all the way across the
Be
whole.
fairly similar to that. There's some geometric changes to the concrete slab, but in essence
It is still
very similar. Yep.
Is there any other design that we could use, you think? Because, you know, I think, just to throw it out as a comment, you know, maybe we could talk about it later too as a board, but just wondering if we could consider one that's just as solid or just as safe, but that would be, I've seen other counties that use they use one that has more columns, like, you know, it's got a solid type top, a solid bottom, but it's more that, where you can see through it a little bit. You can see through.
And again, that's what we were using, the steel railings.
Yeah, the steel rails, yeah.
But with the revised crash standards that just came out this spring, they're off the table for the time being until additional testing and maybe revised design and testing can take place. So,
Are there any options other than just a solid slab? That's what I was
that's been brought to my attention for the cost benefit on a bridge, these rural bridges like this.
They
The
go in for a long
concrete
time.
is the most economical railing that passes the test right now.
Yeah. Because I thought there was another design that is available.
Oh, there's tons of designs. It's just how much, you know, how much is eligible, how much do you want to pay. And on these, again, these rural bridges that are serving that farm to market traffic, it's the best economy that we can get is with the concrete railing for the time being.
Yeah.
But we'll keep our eyes open. I definitely would like to go back to the steel railings as well.
Or if there's something, I'm just thinking about how we highlight our county. We've got 360 miles of river, you know what I mean? And I notice when you drive over some of the bridges, you can't even tell there's a river there. I mean, it's got the high cement solid piece. You go over it, you go, yeah, I know I'm on a bridge, but you can't see the river, you can't see the water, you can't. And I just think sometimes it highlights and gives maybe a different sense to our county, and it's something that we could maybe talk about. I don't know, but it has been brought up before, but a long time ago.
Yeah, and I definitely understand that. And I know we like those. I agree. I prefer that type of bridge because when the snowplow goes through, the snow all goes
through,
flying off, and we don't have that salt and snow and sand mixture sitting there on the edge, making a mess for us. It's less cleanup for us in the spring. So I definitely agree. But these are the cards we're playing with for the time being. So I'll keep my eyes open and ears listening for updates on it.
Does the board have any comments?
You can look at it in the future. Are you talking twice as much, like for a different railing that you can see through?
Probably.
Is that right? So there's a substantial
Concrete's
cost.
affordable because they have machinery that comes in and slip lines and forms it.
Yeah.
And it's
They're still
pretty quick.
concrete, the ones I've seen, they're still concrete, they're just a little different design. so you can
More
see through.
handwork and.
It's,
yep.
yeah, it's just got a little design to it, you can see through.
And I don't know that those are gonna pass the new test.
Yeah.
That's what I have to find out.
That's,
Yeah.
everything's gotta be tested by the NCHRP and
Right,
approved
right. No, I
by
understand
the
that.
Federal Highway Administration, so it moves with the speed of federal government, and we all know how that goes. So.
Can we get some information on it then?
Maybe within the
Ryan?
next 4 years.
On the crash standards?
Yeah, no, on the, what the cost might be for a designed bridge railing that might be a little more aesthetically pleasing than the solid slab. Just to see what it might cost. On that.
One that passes the test.
Yeah, that they approve, because I know I've seen them around, and I just.
Again, this standard just came
Just
out
changed.
So it
this
just changed.
spring.
So we don't know yet then.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that
we have to
it's
do a little
brand
research.
spanking new, so
Okay.
we're dealing with it. The stuff you've seen is grandfathered in from the old design standards.
Okay.
And when it gets replaced, it will be to the new standards.
Anything that would have to be replaced, yes.
Might not hurt to let the dust settle a little bit on the new regulations before we put a lot of work into it, but I agree with what you're
It'd be nice to
saying.
know.
but, Yeah.
You know, we.
Yep, I definitely, and I've had that conversation with our consultants that are doing the plan preparation
Yeah.
for us, is I prefer this, and so right now it's off the table. You know, we won't get it approved by the state, so we
Yeah.
have to,
Okay.
we're playing with a certain set of rules, and we have to work within those
Yeah.
confines, but as it evolves, I'm definitely in the same boat as you, that I'd rather have the steel or the open railings where we have some aesthetics and
More
we have
aesthetics.
easier maintenance.
I know on our trails too, in the past, since I've been on the board, the last engineer was somewhat cognizant on some of our trail activity, and they actually made some changes to some of the trail areas where they did concrete, when they had to replace a bridge abutment or something like that, they did that concrete form.
Form line.
Yeah, so
Yep.
it had kind of a little bit nicer aesthetic look. They didn't have to.
Yep.
But because part of the reason we use our trails and our rivers and things is for our enjoyment. And so that's why.
Absolutely.
Just
Similar to the County Road 1 turnback project where we're doing the retaining walls. You know, we want a form line concrete fascia on top of the shotcreted soil nail walls so that we've got an aesthetically pleasing corridor. You
Yeah.
know, or rather, whether it's state money or county money, were we doing it, that's how we would do it, because we want it to be something that we're happy with in the
Yes.
long run. That's going to be pleasing to our
Appreciate
voters.
it very much.
Well, that'll add to the local bridge fund and the state local bridge fund. They'll have to come up with more money. No, with
For the
the more
form line.
expensive bridges, yeah. Or the,
Yeah, the concrete railing, again, is pretty economical because of the machinery that's available to construct it, and everybody knows how to do it and has that piece of equipment, so it's pretty common.
okay, then you won't have to for that unless we got to the.
Well, we still need bridge money. I don't want to argue with you on that. Unfortunately, it doesn't
Somebody
look like
argued
that's
we
on
could
the docket
have
this year.
Penny tax on everything, help pay for a lot of this. so.
We also have our 2018 Highway Safety Improvement Program projects that are the 90% federal and 10% county, scattered throughout the county with shoulder widening chevrons as minor safety enhancements. We are opening bids on that project on May 23rd. The Eagle Lake Public Water Access is in need of the final lift of bituminous pavement, some minor turf establishment and cleanup on the site. That's anticipated to be completed by June 1st. So within the next few weeks. We have planning projects update, CASA 1 from CASA 9 to Mankato. As you're aware, that's broken into different projects. The segment from 90 to Mankato is advertised for bids. We're planning on opening bids on May 16th, so next Wednesday, and we would be bringing that to the May 29th board meeting for consideration of award. We did receive the Army Corps of Engineer permit for the critical path elements. There is a piece that was held out of there for the new alignment segment requiring a surcharge and channel realignment by the De Santiago property. That requires an archaeological investigation. The archaeological investigation work, we have a consultant lined up for it, should be done by the end of the month and submitted to the Corps, now that the weather is requisite for them to go out and do the actual site investigation and digging around. So we should be seeing the permit following thereafter. We are working on a couple of the lingering right-of-way parcels for signatures. and are pushing hard on those, and we'll make revisions as necessary to the bidding schedule, but we're hopeful that it'll come through here in the last few minutes. County State Highway 14 from Minnesota Highway 30 to CASA 4. Project development, we're providing 90% plan comments to Bolton and Mink today for the final plan production, and then it'll be submitted to state aid for approval. We are also have submitted the environmental permits that are necessary for the project, so the Army Corps of Engineers and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. We will begin right-of-way acquisition, and then bidding will be dependent on right-of-way acquisition as well as receipt of those permits. We're hopeful to have a midsummer bid letting with work in 2018 up until fall. So we break it up, because it is a fairly long project, break it up into smaller segments that the contractor could tackle a couple miles this year and wrap the rest up next spring. Good news on that project. We had put an application in last fall for the DNR State Park road account funding. Because that project fronts two wildlife management areas that the DNR owns, it's eligible for the state park road account funding. As you may recall, for the 2017 project, we received $542,000 of state park road account funding for that project. So we put in an application for the relative footage of the frontage of our project, trying to be reasonable with how much we requested and the prorated cost to construct those pieces. And we were just notified that we're going to be receiving $268,522 of additional funding towards the project. So it's a lot of money, but but it definitely puts a dent in the project. It buys us a couple miles of overlay somewhere else on our system. So I was very happy to see that. It was a fairly easy application to put in, and with the support of the area, the managers for the DNR, I'm grateful for their assistance.
And that's on 14?
Yep, for the southerly segment.
Oh.
So all in all, we've received over $800,000 towards both of those projects of state park road account funding. We're also continue working on the Homeland Security Emergency Management Hazard Mitigation Project on River Park Drive, the acquisition and demolition of the Johnson property. As you may recall, that was stalled slightly because the appraisal came in higher than what we had included in our preliminary budget that was based on the assessed values, and the demolition contract came in slightly higher as well. So in order for that to be able to be funded, it had to be approved by FEMA. That took quite a while. We just received word that FEMA had approved the budget amendment to the project. So the next step is that HSEM has to go in and revise our grant agreement, and once they revise that, we go in and we approve it. Then we'll be authorized to acquire the home and demolish the home. So good news, but it's frustrating how long it's taking. But the folks at HSCM are pushing on their end. But again, we're dealing with the federal government on some of those approvals, and it is what it is. The homeowner was made aware and elected to agreed with us to follow this path.
It's not, it's still on the hill there, or it's still on the ravine.
It hasn't fallen in the drink
yet.
No, in fact, it doesn't look like it's gotten significantly worse.
Yeah, it didn't slough as much below.
It's concerning, absolutely. So we're still hopeful to get that down this summer. And then the last item on my agenda, before I open up for questions, is there's a handout for the 2018 Local Roads and Bridges Highway User Tax Distribution Fund, provided by MnDOT State Aid for Local Transportation. And this is a synapse of our Minnesota Highway User Tax and how it's distributed. As you can see, about $921 million by gas tax, $787 million in license fees, $471 million motor vehicle sales tax, and other revenue sources. Comes to a total of about $2.3 billion, and that's distributed by the time it makes its way to the counties and is distributed amongst the 87 counties. There's $612 million that gets broken out. So it's just a good synapse of how complicated our funding mechanism is. It just really shows you how it's distributed to the state, to the town bridges, the townships, as well as the state aid municipalities in the state of Minnesota. So I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Has that number stayed close to that pretty much, do you think, the fuel tax revenue?
It's fairly consistent. I'd have to go back to the 2017 edition and see if there was a
Okay.
tremendous jump.
I'd be curious to find out.
Yeah, what I've always heard is that while the fuel economy is increasing for vehicles, it's somewhat being offset by the additional vehicle miles traveled typically. You know, people are driving more.
In the low gas prices.
Low gas prices are definitely
So when the gas
encouraging that.
prices start going up, as they're doing,
That is
people
detrimental to
are
our...
going to start driving less and there'll be less gallons used.
Yep, and as we know, our collective purchasing power over the last 15 to 20 years is significantly reduced just with the inflation of materials and construction costs.
Yeah, that really does impact that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's why our local option sales tax is really going to be vital to Blue Earth County staying ahead of our infrastructure.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna quote you on that.
Yeah.
Our brave commissioners that passed the local option sales tax to keep us.
It seems like a lot of people are doing it now, though, too.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
All around
and
the
it's a great way for us to take care of what the legislature is not funding.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Any questions from anybody?
A good piece.
It is.
Yeah.
Good overall.
Yeah, this is always, actually, I'm a little weird, I look forward to this.
Did I just hear that you said that the county commissioners are doing the job that the state legislator can't?
I think you're putting words in my mouth.
Good answer.
It was said, but it was in a nicer way. There's a bad commissioner.
All right, any other questions at all that I can answer?
I don't think I have anything. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, so then we've got our drainage authority. We've got Craig Austenson, our dish manager. Come on up, Craig.
Morning, Craig.
Good morning.
Morning, Craig.
I'll be presenting both items. Ryan's out on a ditch right now, so
Okay.
So
You say he's in a ditch.
he's in a ditch. So he's in a ditch most of the week. So
Yeah.
one ditch or the other. Okay. First item on the for us is we want to set a hearing date for a petition to outlet into JD 32. We're recommending that the hearing be held at 9 a.m. on the second here on June 12th, 2018.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any questions?
Nope.
I've got a question because I don't get to those meetings. Either Kip or
Well,
Will
this
or
will be
you.
the first meeting on it.
This will be the first.
Yep.
Yeah,
Public
this is
hearing.
petition for an
Setting
outlet. We haven't had any informational meetings or anything on this one.
And so can you tell me what that means? I mean, is there another ditch that's coming in from another county?
No,
Or
this,
one that
we have a
share.
landowner who currently is not paying any benefits into the system.
Okay.
And was gonna go across a neighbor's land to go directly to another outlet and avoid the system entirely. But apparently he's finding it's probably less expensive if he can just outlet into the open ditch portion of JD 32.
I see. So it's a landowner that needs to have an outlet somewhere for his
Yes,
for
for
his
his tile.
drainage.
Right now, he doesn't really have a decent outlet. It goes to the north and it's so shallow, doesn't have good
not
drainage.
working well.
No, it's not working.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to have this public hearing on June 12th, 2018 at 9 a.m. here in our Commissioners Room, Blue Earth County Old Historical Courthouse. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Okay. And for next is a repair report. This is kind of an update of a previous one that the board had approved. What we found out is when we started getting out there looking at actually doing the project, it's a lot worse than we thought. So we're actually for additional funds. Originally it was approved for like $25,000. We're estimating the cost actually now to be $40,000 to $50,000 on this particular ditch. So yeah, Right now, the balance is only $2,900, but we do have a $35,000 levy for 2018 year, so.
Okay, is it the soil types, is that what's going on probably?
Soil types, high water table, design, probably 1950s design was probably inadequate. We are going to be having meetings on this one to probably try to change the design of the system. It's not going to be, the long-term fix is going to be very expensive, so this is technically just a short-term fix.
Oh, okay.
So it's up, this is a Band-Aid, $50,000 Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It looks steep from the photographs, but I mean.
Yes, it is quite steep and very high, so, you know, piles of soil from on the side are quite high,
Yeah.
quite a lot of weight. Plus, water table is quite high on this one, so its banks are always wet.
So we need a motion on the repair.
I'll move to repair.
Second.
We got a motion and a second for repair of, and what do you call this ditch here?
County is 35.
County Ditch 35. Any more questions or comments about it? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thank
Anything
you.
else, Craig, that you want to fill us in on?
Now, unless you have questions.
We got you here. Anybody got a question?
No, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Okay,
Craig.
thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
Next on our agenda, we've got our county attorney's office update. Mr. Pat McDermott, county attorney. Good morning, Pat.
He's going to tell us crime is down.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, crime is down.
Thank you.
Down where?
Down there, yeah.
And where's it happening?
No, I'm not gonna, like I've told you before, the numbers are what they are. They're down slightly, but that's not uncommon this time of year. But we continue to move forward in various areas, and one of the areas that we're still waiting for everything to come in to get the full total count is tax court time. Tax court season this time of year, so the filing time for that is over with, so we should know relatively in the near future how many tax court petitions we're going to have to deal with this year. But we continue to move forward with all the other facets of the office. We do have our final misdemeanor prosecutor will be starting Tuesday after Memorial Day. And then we will still have one additional space that we will try to fill in the near future. But we continue to move forward with replacing people due to retirements and other matters. So, and I don't want to take up your time. If you have any specific questions, if there's anything that you've heard in the community that you'd like to discuss with me or ask about or whatever, I'm more than happy to talk about it. So.
Well, thank you. And I did notice in our, where was it? We were just talking about some hirings. You've got some new staff in your office too.
We did. We had the one new hire started a couple of weeks ago, and then the second new hire will be starting right after Memorial Day.
Okay. Good. So
we should be good there. We've been continuing to move forward on the Child Advocacy Center, and I should have some more updates in the near future with respect to that. But things are going well there. We're moving forward. Hopefully, have the physical location in the near future sorted out. We just have to have a few other things fall into place. So.
And then this summer we're going to be having, well, I don't know, it's in June, I believe. We'll be having some meetings with you and with the sheriff, Bob and myself and Josh and Lisa.
Yes.
And
Candace.
Or excuse me, Candace.
Yes.
And then of course Will, to talk about the budget for 2019.
Yeah. And there's not going to be anything major from my perspective, just a couple of one carryover with respect to our technology that we won't be able to get started until the fourth quarter. Late fourth quarter is what Charlie Berg is anticipating. So we'll need some carryover for that, but then there's just one other minor request, but otherwise we're going to be status quo as far as that goes with respect to staffing. For years our office was nothing more than people, pens, and paper, and now it's people and technology. So,
but good thing it's 3 Ps, that's not 2.
Right. So, but other than that, no, I think things are going well. And if you, as always, you know how to get a hold of me if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have at this juncture. So,
Anybody else?
No.
Thanks, Jim.
As always, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. Next, we've got our administrative services. So should we wait to take a little break, do you think, or would you like to take one?
It's up to you, Mr. Chair, what your preference
Take a
is.
Take a little break. I gotta call.
Short one?
Whatever
Just take a
works.
short one.
Okay, we'll take a short break.
County attorney.
Good.
Okay, welcome back.
That's good.
We've got our administrative services here, and our administrator, Bob Meyer, helps us with this process, and gee, go ahead,
Mr.
Bob.
Chair, the first item on the agenda here is the county board minutes for April 17th.
So moved.
Second?
We've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes from our last meeting on April 17th. Are there any corrections or additions or anything? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries.
Next up would be 3 weeks of bills, and those
Yeah,
are
3
indicated
weeks
in your
now.
packet.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval and a second. Anybody have any questions about the massive amount of bills from 3 weeks?
You know, I went through all the bills and nothing really stands out.
You know, I had a lot going on, and I know I reviewed them, but there's a couple that stood out, but I just didn't even make a note, I'm sorry. But
You know, we'll
Sometimes.
forgive you.
we try to play stump the administrator, but it's very difficult sometimes.
We don't have the music, it doesn't work.
There was a contingency capital with Meadowbrook Incorporated. That's one of the ones that stuck out, I know. Meadowbrook Incorporated in the first week.
That is builder's risk insurance that we took out on our government center building project. So
Okay.
that provides some protection while the building process is going on.
Until they sign off on it somehow, or? I would assume.
Yeah, you know, as materials arrive and as the building is going up, if there would happen to be a natural disaster or some sort of loss, that builder's risk would provide some coverage to the county.
Okay, that's good. And I saw there were some refunds, but I can figure those out. Those are those tax things that are going on.
Tax court, that's right.
Yep. Anything else? Just take a minute here since we got a little extra time.
I have a question if,
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner
okay.
Purvis.
I see Reverence for Life and Concern for People Incorporated, Detox. Just never seen that one before for detox services.
Which week is that in?
Could be under R, right?
It's down the
Oh, it's in the first week, I
Yeah,
see
it's
it there.
first week.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me anything more than that it was a detox spill. I can certainly look into that
Yeah,
some
I
more.
just had never seen it
No, I
before
hadn't.
for detox, so
I hadn't
just
either.
curious.
I don't know if it's an out-of-state situation or
yeah,
what, but
yeah.
that is unusual.
Yeah, just curious where it was at, so,
Well, you stumped the administrator.
okay.
No, who gets to go to the,
Do I get the prize?
who gets to go to the reptile amphibian discovery
that's a good
zoo? Is
question.
that, is that some
That's an event that was held at the library in April.
Oh, okay.
So it was
Okay,
part of their children's programming.
okay. Thank you.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 8 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. Today, again, we only have informational items, but a lot of activity has been happening. You'll see that, I guess, the first 5 items on the agenda are retirements that are resulting from our early retirement incentive program. And so folks have looked at that program and then started to fill out the paperwork and have completed kind of their rescission periods, and so bringing those forward for the board's reference. We also have filled a probation officer position In addition to that, there are a couple of 911 dispatchers, both a part-time and full-time position have been filled. We have filled a new position in the Human Services Department as part of our 2018 budget, community-based coordinator that'll be working with the Yellow Line project. And then we have a couple of promotions of a clerical specialist in the Human Services Department as a result of vacancies and new positions that were authorized. And so we've begun recruitment to refill those positions. So our Human Resources Department has been busy and will stay busy over the coming months as that early retirement program continues to be available to staff, and we start to see people leaving the organization and the resulting recruitments and refilling of those positions. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
I just, you have any?
I don't.
Tom? As a chair, I guess, for our board here, I know that everybody here is in agreement, and I know that we're thankful for all the years that these people have put in that have declared an actual retirement from the county. And just in this board meeting alone, there's 5 people listed, and I'd like to thank them for their service and for all the years. You know, all the positives and negatives they've gone through, and all the different things and stresses and changes and you know, blessings and sometimes curses of working for an organization for a long time, no matter where you work.
You think of how many years of experience those 5 people represent for the county, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, and so
a number of these will be leaving later in the year, so you'll have opportunities in the coming months to personally thank them for their service. But you're absolutely right. These folks all have worked hard for many years.
I see 2 of them are going to be gone in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So if we get a chance, we could thank them when we see them.
And certainly if they're having some retirement thing and they want the board members to come, certainly reach out to us and let us know.
Let us know.
If they don't want us there, that's fine, but if they're having something, but some people just
I know.
like that small.
No, a lot
so
of people
that's
are quiet
fine.
about it. They just want to kind of quietly.
If they want us to be there,
I
just
know.
it would be nice if they'd reach out to us. So.
No, that's true. Yeah. So, thank you for the Human Services report, Bob.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 9 in your packet then is a memo outlining a committee appointment. You'll recall that the Environmental Services staff were here a couple of weeks ago talking about the Watonwan Watershed Policy Committee. The board did approve that memorandum of agreement, and so at that time it was indicated that this policy committee would be established, and we'd want to appoint a commissioner and an alternate to that committee. And so we're recommending Commissioner Purvis be appointed to the Watonwan Watershed Policy Committee, and that Commissioner Campbell serve as an alternate.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion for approval and a second. Is there any comments or questions about this new?
Exciting.
Yeah. Well, in some ways it is. It depends where you're at and things like that. But
It depends on how it flows.
Yeah.
oh, come on.
Oh.
Too much humor in one day.
Yeah.
I can't take it. So that's good. I mean, and I know this is in your district too, Will, so it makes sense. In fact, tell us a little bit about your locality as far as where you reside and your property. And
Yeah, well, I mean, my farm is right smack dab on the Blue Earth River, which the Watonwan River flows into.
Yeah.
And my lake cabin is within the, is part of the Watonwan
That's
River
something.
watershed. So
Watonwan County.
Kind of neat to be part of that.
Well, that's good. I hope you can bring some good decision making there, and that's a fairly large river basin, Watonwan, and it flows right into the Blue Earth River.
Yeah.
And I know Mark serves on GBRBA, Greater Blue Earth River Basin Alliance.
But you'll be a good alternate for that.
Yeah, but I'll be an alternate till the end of the year, and more than likely your name will rise to the top, Mark. So, okay. Anything else? Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 10 in your packet is a memo regarding the law library fee. The Law Library Board of Trustees did meet at the end of April and voted to increase the law library fee from $2 to $4. This fee is assessed on defendants in criminal cases. We've been provided information about the cost that the law library incurs to provide those materials to be available to people that want to do research on law issues, and so we've encountered some deficits or close to deficits in our law library fund, so there is a need for some additional revenue to cover some of the costs, and so we're recommending increasing the law library fee from $2 to $4 effective July 1st of this year.
Okay, does anybody have any?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All right. We got a motion and a second, and we'll open it up for some comments.
Just have a comment. The Law Library Board had kept the fee relatively small because there had been a surplus. That surplus is now down, and we feel that the $4 figure will support what we need for the law library with a small surplus. So this will bring the fund back to where we want it to be.
Sounds great.
And for clarification, and this is both for the digital access to law, and also there's some actual, there's a law library, isn't there?
There's a law library, plus we also provide materials at the county library downtown.
So the public has access to these materials if they request or want to come.
It's amazing. You go to the Criminal Justice Center, and it seems like the law library always has people in it.
Right.
So it's used significantly.
Okay. And any other comments, Pat, our county attorney, anything about it? And a law library fee, we're just changing it from $2 to $4.
And that, I'm told that's substantially less than many of the other counties in the 5th Judicial District. That's the lowest one, and it hasn't been raised for years.
Okay.
So,
I think $5 to $7
would be
the
more.
norm.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Anybody else? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Item number 11 in your packet is a memo regarding County Board of Appeal and Equalization appointments. We have 3 individuals who have served on the County Board of Appeal and Equalization, and their terms expire this year. All 3 of those individuals have expressed a desire to serve another term, so we're recommending reappointment of Mr. Mike Miller, Mr. Dick Norland, and Mr. Dan Wingert to the County Board of Appeal and Equalization.
Move to approve.
Second. Oh, okay. Do they have, I don't know, we don't have term limits, but do they, how long have they been on? I think are they all kind of about the same time, I think? Just curious.
Yeah, they have been on for a number of terms, and so we do not have, to my knowledge, any term limit per se in terms of the number of terms that they can serve.
Well, as long as now they know what they're doing, I guess.
I'm pretty sure this is a complete voluntary.
Oh, yeah.
That
they're all
they
good
make
guys.
absolutely
I was
nothing
just curious
from this,
what.
so.
Well, they get the per diem.
Yeah, they get, I think it's $300 if I remember right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And there's more than these members on the boards.
Right.
I mean, each board has, I think, 6, is it, or 7?
5.
5 members, okay. And the only concern I've ever had too, is just that when you look at what these folks do, is they're all real estate folks in the community. But some of the folks on the board, isn't there 1 or 2 that are not real estate? I mean, that's my question.
There is an insurance professional.
Maybe a banker or not?
An appraiser.
Appraiser, okay.
An appraiser, insurance, and then 3 realtors. And one is an auctioneer, and so I'm not sure if he does really as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Miller.
Mr. Miller does
Miller is an
both.
auctioneer, realtor.
Okay. I think he does. He used to do real estate, but
He does.
Yeah, he still.
Yeah,
well,
he still does.
Yeah, he
does.
Okay. And I know it's good to try to mix it up a little bit. If
if they ever were to step down, it'd be nice to get somebody from a different walk of life maybe on that. I've
Well,
always suggested that.
some people, and it's been advocated before, put somebody in with a business background, who
Yes.
owns a business or, has
Yes.
a business experience, but
Could you,
That would
of a
include-
different sort, not,
and that would
obviously,
include a
they're in
farmer.
they're with real estate in their business, but somebody with actually owns a manufacturing or something.
Yeah, right.
But I
Or a moving company.
yeah, that's all I wanted.
I got a question, Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
How many times a year do they actually have a meeting?
Just once.
So one time a year they have a meeting?
Yep.
And
And it goes all day.
They typically start right after lunch, and they're required to go into the evening to accommodate people making appeals, but usually from 1 to 7 p.m.
Okay.
Okay.
You ever gone before one of
This
those?
is for folks that are appealing their property taxes?
Their valuation.
Yep.
It is a very technical sort of role that they play, and
Which
I have sat through those, and there is a lot of information that gets explored in terms of people presenting their arguments for a reduction in their market value, as opposed to kind of how we compare then across the different values that have been assigned by our appraising staff.
All right. Thank you.
I've sat in on several hours of some of those meetings, not the whole meeting because they go forever. They're bring your lunch if you're going to go. And they're very good. And the positive side of this is these folks have a tremendous amount of knowledge of our county, of our area here, and so they bring a lot to the table. When we talk about institutional knowledge, they've got a tremendous amount. The downside, if you're just an average person on the street trying to come in here, you're looking at mainly people who are dealing with real estate. You might feel like you wish there was somebody maybe like the business side or just a person that's a resident. And so I don't know if we ever had to replace one of these folks, I think it would be nice to, if they decide not to renew their term, if we could get somebody that's not real estate. But at least always maintain a few real estate folks on there that have good expertise, certainly.
Yeah, is there I don't know, is statutory, I think, and there's something we have to have, or no?
Is there any
You don't
statutory?
have to have certain people from occupation like real estate or something?
Not to my knowledge.
No?
Yeah.
But I would think that's probably what most places have.
Well,
County.
their role is to kind of evaluate concerns that are brought forward in terms of the valuation and review the work of the staff who have established that value that now is being appealed. And so they have to have some understanding of the overall system of how values are assigned and whether it's a reasonable a value that has been assigned. And so they look at the unique features of properties to say, well, we understand the appealer's arguments in terms of why they don't believe that value should be as high as it is, because they're in the marketplace. They understand that that could affect the sales value of that particular property.
That sounds good. Good discussion. So we're happy to we've got Mike Miller, Dick Dorland, and Dan Wingert to renew their membership to the County Board of Appeal and Equalization. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 12 in your packet is a notice of a public hearing that we would ask the board to set for May 29th at 9 a.m. here in the historic courthouse to consider the issuance of bonds to support our government center building project under a capital improvement plan. So the public hearing would be to review the capital improvement plan and allow us to move forward with the sale of those bonds later this year.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's just, it died.
Everybody, die by lack of motion here, right?
No, but that's good. So Commissioner Stuenberg
Made a motion, and second was,
I did. Mark.
which one?
Makes no
Commissioner
difference.
Purvis.
Oh, okay, we had
Yeah,
Commissioner Purvis,
Will.
because I kind of heard stereo, I wasn't sure.
FM.
Well, good, and any comments or any questions?
Nope, should be some good discussion, had a good work session on it, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
we did. You know, and I think if anybody's wondering about this, you know, the discussion we had at our work session was that it's almost not an all-time low, but pretty low for interest rates. And that we could work up a good blend of dollars that we have in savings to help pay for the construction, along with some bonding, because this would be the time to do it. And that those dollars aren't just for the project, they can be utilized towards other capital improvements, correct, Bob?
That is correct.
And so we felt it was wise as a board to move ahead with this. Bob presented a couple of options at our work sessions, and sounded positive, really. Over time, you look at it over a long period of time, it's a positive thing.
Well, this building project, the addition will be there for many decades, and so it does seem to be an appropriate use of bonds. But as you say, we will be paying for a large portion of this project with cash reserves.
Yeah, a larger portion, actually.
Right.
The difference being about
Roughly 14 million more.
14 million out of cash reserves.
Yes.
Okay, that's just good to say. I think it's good to say that. What do you think? Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Item number 13 in your packet is a memo regarding setting a public hearing to review revisions to a county ordinance dealing with all-terrain vehicles in the public right-of-way. The county board has requested staff to review that ordinance and bring revisions to the county board for consideration. That would include adding motorized golf carts and utility task vehicles to our ordinance. And so we need to hold a public hearing to consider that revised ordinance, and we're recommending that we do that on May 29th, again at 9 a.m. So we'll have a couple of public hearings that morning.
Nope, so moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner People moved this proposal for hearing. Commissioner Stuenberg seconded this?
No.
Or,
Kip.
oh, excuse me,
No, it's Kip.
Brunder. Is that correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. And in doing so, I know it made it a little more complex. We had to change our current ordinance that was approved, was that a couple years ago?
It was back in 2012 when the
2012.
original ordinance was passed.
Yeah. All right. Any questions or comments?
Now
I
this,
got a comment, Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
Do you think it'd be an issue with the 9 o'clock start for both of them, Bob, or should we put
You know,
9:15 or-
because the capital improvement plan is likely to be a short public hearing,
be
you know,
all right.
we just listed that time for both of them. Obviously, they'll be staggered, but by a few minutes is all.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, my understanding, this does not pertain to streets within the city of Mankato, is that correct?
That is correct. When you see the actual ordinance, it will be very clear in there that it does exclude county roads within the city of Mankato.
So if anyone wanted to have the same thing, they would have to go through the city of Mankato City Council or to do the same, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't tell them what to do with their
Even on our county roads.
They're going to
We got county roads that come right through the city.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
we're probably having too much discussion here, this is setting a public hearing, but just a clarification for the county, or the county roads that are in the small cities, if they have a problem with that, do they need to opt out, or they're all supportive of it, but just thought I'd ask the question.
If I may.
Go ahead, yeah.
Technically, it's for roadways under the county's jurisdiction, but in the 2012 ordinance, the city of Mankato, it stated they did not want any ATVs on any city streets, which would have included under the county's jurisdiction. If, for example, Eagle Lake wants to remain in, or Once this ordinance is passed as written, once you review it, then it would apply to any county roads within the county's jurisdiction that would go through any of the other municipalities within the county.
Okay.
There's only the one exclusion right now is the city of Mankato, because that's what they had requested previously.
All right.
So the small towns wouldn't have to do anything unless they wanted to opt out.
They would have to let us know
If they wanted to opt out.
if they want to opt out. If they don't, but I
Otherwise,
know that
if they're approved of it, they can just leave it. If we pass it, they can just leave it.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, they don't leave it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's indicating
That's
that-
what I meant.
Right, but I do believe that there's other communities that already have golf cart ordinances in their municipalities, but they are not allowed to operate at this time on the county roads under the county's jurisdictions. They can cross, but not operate on. This will allow them to operate on those county roads.
And
It is.
then at our next meeting, we can
Yeah,
discuss
we'll
it.
have-
Yeah, because
Yeah, just
Mr. Brunner
setting the
said
date.
too, that's
We're
it.
just setting the date.
We're just
today.
setting the public hearing here for public purposes, and it's a notice, and that's going to be for
But we have so
May
much time
29th
this morning.
at approximately 9 o'clock in the morning. And I remember we talked about those issues when we passed it, and that all those cities, we're going to try to identify routes and things like that, that if there was any issues for their own city ordinances that they had. I remember that, so hopefully some of them will come, or
Well, we'll bring it up with mayors and clerks this weekend.
there you go.
Or this
Thursday.
Thursday night. We'll
Thursday
mention
night,
that
yep.
there'll be a public hearing on Tuesday.
And I'm sounding like I'm informing too much, but Commissioner Brunner just mentioned we could bring it up at mayors and clerks. And the mayors and clerks from all of our small cities, once a month, the county board meets with them in respective cities, and we hear what's going on out there, and I think it's a wonderful thing that we have that relationship with our small cities. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 14 is the financial status report for April 30th. You'll see that our total revenues and other sources of income is at 13.6 million, where our total expenditures and other uses sits at 24.4 million, so almost an $11 million difference at this point. That's a little bit concerning to me, excuse me, mostly because of the state and federal revenue line. You'll see that last year we had taken in $12 million at this time versus 8.2 million this year, and so I will be looking into that a little bit to see what some of the delays are in that state and federal revenue that we have seen in prior years. But when you look at the total revenues, we're at about 12% of what we had budgeted for our revenue. Obviously, with the first half taxes being received later this month, that will improve quite a bit with that revenue coming in. Our expenditures are at 21% of our expected budget, so that is running behind where we would be kind of if all of our expenditures were evenly distributed over the year. So we're not in terrible shape, but it does concern me a little bit that our revenue is lagging behind certainly compared to last year. Moving down to the enterprise fund, you'll see the landfill is just the opposite, where our total revenues are $800,000 at this point in the year, and our expenses are at $600,000, so they're showing a little bit of a surplus in their activities at this point. The second page then shows our cash and investment balances. We're kind of at the low point of our cash in terms of those funds that are available as we're waiting for those first half taxes to arrive. So you'll see our total available funds at the top of the second page are at 26.2 million. But overall, when you include all of our dedicated funds and those funds that have been committed by the board or for other purposes, we're sitting at 98.6 million. And then we also have some agency funds or funds that belong to other entities or prepaid taxes that make our total cash a little bit higher than that. So still overall sitting in a very sound position. Be happy to answer any questions about our board might have about the financial status report.
Any comments?
The capital purchase account took a big decline in 16 to 17. It's all the new building.
Well, some of that was moved down into the capital improvement plan, so it is tied to the building project in that it's more dedicated funds. So kind of going back to our discussion about bonding, we've had to kind of lock in some of those funds in that capital improvement plan for our building project.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And as far as your comment, we're down, I mean, altogether, we're down about 5 million from when we were, back in the governmental financial status report. Do you think it's something to do with Public Works? I mean, we did receive some, I thought we received some funds last year by now.
We probably did. It certainly could be related to the Public Works Department. I'm also concerned, I guess, about Human Services, whether the state has been a little slow in reimbursing us with some of our quarterly reporting that's required. I know that the South Central Community-Based Initiative, I think Human Service Director Clausen mentioned the last time he was in front of the board that there's been discussions that have been protracted with DHS that have delayed some of those grant dollars, either with the mental health initiative or with the supportive housing. And so I'm guessing that some of that's playing into this, but until I dig into it more, I can't say for sure.
Wow. All right.
That's all I had for you today, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So should we move into our commissioners' reports then, looks like? Where should we start? I think we should start with Commissioner Stromberg this morning.
All right. All right. Well, our last board meeting was 3 weeks ago on April 17th. After that, we had an employee recognition program that was really nice at the Justice Center. And then that evening, I assisted at the Children's Museum, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And that's always interesting to watch.
I'm sure glad
I wasn't up on stage. I
We just want to spare you
because it would have been embarrassing, trust me. April 19th, Thursday, I had a TDS board meeting, a Rural Action Caucus conference call, and we had our Parks annual meeting that night. That was very nice. April 23rd, I drove up to St. Cloud for the Magic trustee board to check on our finances. April 24th, I had an airport commission, and then we had a board work session. April 25th, I had a TDS Legacy Fund committee. On April 26th, I testified at the House Transportation Committee on the Constitutional Amendment Bill. That still hasn't been decided on. On April 27th, I went to the YMCA Stand Against Racism and was able to hear our Commissioner Campbell talk. And he did a very, very good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
On May 2nd, we had our department head meeting. On May 3rd, I said a prayer for the National Day of Prayer over at the Justice Center. And then I had the library board. We discussed our summer reading program. We have an adult reading program now. There's interesting listening to them. There's a program where students or children with their reading can actually fly with pilots from the airport, and talk about how neat that would be to be able to just because of the amount of books you read, be able to go up in the airplane, and evidently the pilots actually go over their houses and stuff like that. Kind of a deal. And then we went over our annual report. On May 5th, my wife and I walked with the Twin Cities Heart Walk over at the Target Center. 25,000 people walking. And then yesterday I had my Transportation Alliance Executive Board meeting up in St. Paul. And that was me. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Brunner.
All right, after our last meeting, as mentioned already, the employee recognition, which I got a lot of positive feedback. I just asked a few people on their way out the door if they enjoyed it, was worth their time and effort, and they seem to enjoy it. So I think it's a good effort that we do on our behalf. It's not a whole lot, but at least shows our appreciation. And Drew, you did a nice job with the little opening remarks.
Thank you.
After that was down at Community Connect with Commissioner People and Commissioner Campbell, who was, we thought we were just going to go down there for a half hour, but we were there for almost 90 minutes, and I know you were still there when we left, so, and you said you were only going for 30 minutes too, but
I had to run out the doors.
There was a lot of people down there, and we had a good chance to visit with a lot of people that are doing a lot of good things in this community, so we made sure we got to all of our committee booths and our county staff that were there to show our appreciation. And then after that, we were at the Historical Society fundraiser, which we were all there, I believe. Yeah, we had good.
Oh, I guess I didn't put that one in.
Yeah, we had two tables, almost two full tables of commissioners, and Pat was there, and past commissioner, so we had a good showing there. Work session, had several things to discuss. It was a busy meeting, but a lot of good information. Department head, Josh did a fine job, went around the room and talked about all the different things we have going on with the different departments. Then Mark and I, after that, had RCEF. We're working on some, maybe just doing some reconfiguration of that organization, trying to tie it to another organization possibly, instead of duplicating services, and just might work out a little better for the program and what we're trying to get done. And then after that, same day, Ryan and I drove over to the LeSueur County and looked at their new shop over there, because Ryan and I and the administrator have been having a lot of discussion about the St. Clair shop and the investment we have to make in that. So we've been looking at some different buildings and different options, and I appreciate the staff taking time to follow through with this stuff and help us try to work through that. That evening we had planning and zoning, a couple things on the agenda, but very nobody came to testify. It was several things, but the meeting went really smooth. We'll see that at the next meeting. And then we had MRCI awards for our shop up on the hill, with about 8 or 9 consumers that got their longevity awards, and that's always an exciting program to go to. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Will? Okay, of course, the employee recognition event has been mentioned already, so the Parks Banquet on the 19th, so it's a treat to go to that. And on the 20th, I had the Will Martha Huntley Highline Task Force meeting. Information to see that, it's great to see that developing. I think we've pretty much narrowed it down to a couple of routes that committee would suggest. And of course, the work session, and then the Historical Society event's already been mentioned. On the 2nd, another task force meeting for the Highline thing and department heads. On the 3rd, I had a conference call for the PACE committee through the Rural Minnesota Energy Board, looking at some information there. Yesterday I did my monthly briefing at the Crystal Seasons in Lake Crystal. Attended the Lake Crystal City Council meeting regarding the possibility of the city taking over the County Ditch 56 through the city of Lake Crystal. So we continue to have discussions about that. And then after that, I went out and looked at County Road 107 north of Butternut. There's gravel
gravel road that has some significant frost boils in it. So just responding to a citizen's complaint about that.
Wow.
That's my report.
Very good. Commissioner, thank you very much, Commissioner.
Yep.
If I have too much more to add, because yeah, with employee recognition, of course after our board meeting, we had, but those of us at Community Connect, and that was worthwhile. And then we had our Historical Society that Friday, everybody, Parks Board, and the work session, and department heads and RCF, we had a kip at the end. Yeah, pretty well. Nothing really
Good.
to add. Sure.
A lot of events and festivities we end up going to, isn't there? So I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. I know I forgot it was 3 weeks, so when I got up this morning, I had 2 weeks. I forgot to look back. So 17th, of course, was our last board meeting. And our employee recognition, again, I'd like to say, just the one thing is that, you know, a lot of times we recognize for time, but the effort too, and all the commitments and being here at work, and you know, we appreciate the employees here with Blue Earth County that do that, and the supervisors that gave them an opportunity to hand the award to their employees, and it was kind of good too. Thank you for your comment too, Kip. And then that was at the Justice Center. Was that the same day we had Community Connect too? Yeah, I forgot
to that.
Yep. But I'll tell you, that
It was a busy day.
I don't know what year they started doing that, but I'll tell you, that is a good thing.
It's a nice event, isn't it?
Oh, it's well attended, and I just cannot believe, you know, the services that we have here in this community. You walk around there and you really find out there's a lot of nonprofits, there's a lot of government agencies and people that are working to try to make our community a better place for people to live. On the 18th, on Wednesday, just want to mention I was invited to a luncheon. Mike Anderson, who works for Lutheran Social Services, they're one of our nonprofit social service agencies we have here in Mankato. There's a lot of cities in our state that don't have that. So we're very blessed to have that right here in Mankato. And he was just doing it as an appreciation for my wife and I. We've been involved with some things, outreach within LSS. And we got to sit down with Tammy Moses, who's the director of the local office, and also get a tour and then see the reach, meet those folks there, and some of the efforts that they're doing with our at-risk youth in our community. Approximately 30 young adults basically show up there during the week for different services that they provide. So I encourage more support for them too. And then had a NACO RAC call in that day. April 19th on Thursday, we had our county annual parks meeting, which we all mentioned, and that was nice. Had a dinner. It's our annual dinner, and thanks to Josh and of course our public works staff, people, and Amber, who helps with the parks board, and our park caretakers and everybody. I'd like to say thanks to them for their extra duties that they do, and their spouses that attended too. Ryan, also our engineer, gets involved. Daryl Arsdorf is our chair, so I'd like to thank them. April 22nd, on Sunday, I just did a little bit of community stuff. It was the Optimist and Vine brunch at the Wow Zone. On Sunday mornings, you know, if you look at announcements, there's a lot of times they offer this brunch up there, and those funds go to a lot of local programs to help support youth and different things that go on in our community. So they get a few dollars. Pam, who helps set that up there, does a good job, and it's a great brunch. So I'd encourage people to keep an eye on that if you ever see things going on up at the WOW for these benefits for our community. And then on Tuesday the 24th, we had our county work session and a luncheon in Mapleton, and that was nice. And we had a information meeting that I attended with our River Center for the Arts here in Mankato, Twin River Center, and then also Region 9. We just wanted to talk about arts and culture and how highlighted it is in our community and how important it is in our community, but also to look at possibly looking at things more regionally, just to see, you know, after going to NACO, and I know Commissioner Sturenberg is aware of this, you really hear about not only the economic impact, but the emotional and social impact of nurturing the arts and recognizing the cultures of your community. So, and then that evening, I wanted to mention something. It's a little bit, maybe a little bit of humor, but it was fun. I was invited by library staff, Dana Mew, I believe her name is. I'm not sure the last name, if that's correct. And she apparently has organized a county library book club down there that meets, and it was a good sized group of people, and I came unannounced. And and so they're studying a book that relates to a true story about it involves an opera situation. And so when I was in high school, I sang a little bit of opera or operetta. I sang in The Mikado. And so here's a picture. I don't know if you, I think you saw that. People didn't know for sure who it was, but I'll hold it up. I don't know if you can zero in on that at all, John or Robert. But dressed up a little bit for the occasion, and
scary looking.
yeah, I know. Have a little fun with it.
You got through security in that outfit?
Yeah. And believe it or not, that's
We better beef up our security at the library.
This is an original Japanese kimono that my father, who died when I was very young, the year before I was born, was in Japan.
Oh, wow.
And he helped set up some churches as a minister there, way out in the rural districts. And so I used to hear stories about the village women giving him baths and the visits that he had there and the setting up these churches out in the rural district. So, but anyway, so I sang some songs for this group. I've memorized those ever since being at West High School. It's pretty funny. So then, let's see where we're at here. My name then was called Nanky Poo, just so you know. Just don't call me that now. It's only when I'm in character.
So,
yeah.
Mr. Pooh wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah.
Winnie.
Yeah. Now it's all coming. It's all coming. You keep it up, I'm gonna start singing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So April 25th, the Vine board meeting, and I attended early in the morning. We have a Vine board meeting once a month at 7:30, and they're another social services organization in our community. Not only do they provide service, but a lot of good things for folks that like to go there. It was also Professionals Day that day, so I stayed and had a little lunch with them. And then Thursday the 26th, the County Highway Accountants Association conference was held here in Mankato. There was about 90 participants from around the state, and it's nice that it could be hosted here. It was at the Mankato City Center Hotel, and I was asked to just do the welcoming comments, as the chair of the board, so it was on your behalf and on our county's behalf, and it was fun to do that. I usually do a little research and try to figure out what is this. You've got a Highway Accountants Association, that meets annually and has updates, I suppose, on IT and informational systems. Speakers, they have really good speakers. Peter from MnDOT was there. Up here, he's one of the assistant engineers and gave some updates. It was actually a very good group of people. I got to meet several people. And of course, Amber Stuckmeyer from our Public Works was there attending, and Pamela Hahn from she's one of the accountants up there at our Public Works Department. And I wanted to make sure that I spoke to them because I worked in mental health for a long time, and I heard that accountants, many of them suffer from depreciation. So I wanted to make sure that they were fully appreciated. And I know only Bob can really understand this humor, but no. And that I wanted them to be audit they can be. So.
I hope you don't pay for that material.
We need a bigger crowd than this.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I just want to give you a little fun. Thursday, Mankato Valley Building and Construction Trades Council and the Southeast Labor Memorial luncheon that they usually put that on every year, and I've attended most of them. They were out by where they're working on the new power plant. There's a lot of union workers out there. There's steel workers and carpenters and people who set up scaffolding and do all kinds of things for that. Are you aware of that big out there? They're doubling the size of that.
Right.
That standby plant we've got out there off of 3rd Avenue. So it's quite a deal. So they offered a luncheon and had it catered in, and it was over 200 people 95% of them were men. All union labor workers, and it was quite something to see them all come. They talked about safety, talked about, we had a moment of silence for people who have lost their lives in working, and I think it's a wonderful thing. I also attended Healthcare for All, which is a concept that's been going around Minnesota. I wanted to learn more about it. The executive director of the Minnesota Nurses Association presented and talked about this Healthcare for All idea, which is sometimes not well received, but there's something going on with our healthcare costs that's driving the huge expense that we're facing with healthcare. And then, of course, like you mentioned, I attended that stand against racism. Actually, Region 9, Nicole, who was our executive director, had contacted me. She couldn't attend, so I gave some words on behalf of Region 9, also, which means I represented Blue Earth County and our stand against racism in our region. There's many people there who attended. There's a young black man who gave his, I would call it a poetic expression. I'm sure there's a name for it, but he did a wonderful job. And when he started out, he stood there and says, who do you see when you see me? And based on that, he really had some good comments. It was good for everybody to hear. And Vance was there too, so thank you. Blue Earth County Historical Society, we attended that, surrounded by history. That was a very good event that we go to every year to support our historical society. Saturday, Bowl-a-thon, raising funds for the Miracle League. A small group of us from the Optimist Club attended and participated. Wednesday, the 2nd of May, department head meeting. Thursday, the 3rd, NACO Health Steering call-in. The 4th, had a SHAC, State Community Health Services Advisory Committee call-in. The 5th, I attended the MSU graduation this last Saturday. Man, there's a lot of people that graduate up there. I think they have 3.
Which one did you go to?
I went to the early morning.
Oh.
9 o'clock.
I forgot to bring that up, but that was...
Did you go?
Well, my daughter graduated, but that was...
Oh, she did?
3 o'clock one.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, there's a 9, noon, and 3. And if everybody went through the ceremony, they said they would need 6 ceremonies.
Wow.
So it's a lot of people. There's like 600 to 700 at each ceremony, I believe.
1,500 or whatever. 1,700, I think it was, yeah.
All together that day?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're probably right. I think you're right. I saw your wife up there helping to participate, or help to keep things going. And then yesterday on Monday, Nicollet County, Blue Earth County Safe Roads meeting with TZD. You know, we've got our South Central, larger regional TZD. This is just for Nicollet County, Blue Earth County. And good participation now. Nicollet County is getting more involved, and believe it or not, we're going to file for a grant. We approved that yesterday. The MnDOT offers a grant that is a Safe Roads grant for our group, or whoever would like to have them, to give 12 hours a week to have a coordinator. And so the EMS of South Central Minnesota is going to pick that up, and they'll do the hiring.
They mentioned that to me yesterday.
Did they? Yep. Okay, I thought you might have knew something else.
Scott Wright was over and they were...
Yes.
So...
Yeah, and they don't know who they're going to hire yet.
Just came up real brief, but they said it was out there.
Yeah, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I help do a little chairing of that group too, and Scott now's taken over that, and Annette, who works with Safe Roads and TZD with MnDOT's done a real good job helping. And then this morning, I'd like to mention, that you might have forgot what I did. This Kip Brunder, myself, attended the stakeholders meeting that Mayo had sponsored, and that was up at the Garden Inn. What's that called up there? The Marriott? Marriott Garden Inn. And we had to squeeze that in on our way here. And it was well attended. A lot of community stakeholders were there. And Mayo presented a lot of things they're trying to do with their system of care. They're offering classes and training and trying to get more involved in the community, but also trying to have a real philosophy within their business plan. And the only question I had was if they're doing any hard work at trying to reduce the costs of healthcare. And I think that's a difficult one to answer. He tried his best, but you know, I think we got to do something to reduce the cost of healthcare. He paired it with if you want quality care, it costs something, basically. And that's probably true. So before we end here, I'm sorry I'm taking a long time here, I want to mention we've got our Second Step Clubhouse open house this Thursday. Yeah, 3 to 6 p.m.
3 to 6, right?
Yep. And then I'll be attending on the 17th of May. Anybody else can still sign up if they'd like, the Minnesota River Congress. And that's at the Cato Ballroom, 4 to 9. You can come at 5 or 6. We've got the backyard lawn care tips going on with the extension down at the library on the 19th. And I'd like to invite you all to the Thursday, May 24th, Lincoln Community Center graduation for Mankato area adult basic education folks. If you've never been to one at that little theater there, you know, they have, that's a great thing to go to on the 24th. I'm trying to think, that's probably about it. So, announcements.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else for the good of the order before we go and extend this meeting to, or recess this meeting to the Loose Moose?
Mr. Chair, just one thing, back to Commissioner Purvis's question about the reference for life and concern for people, that detox bill. I was able to look it up, and that is a detox facility in Granite Falls, Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a long ways.
Yes.
So they had to transfer something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Redwood Falls?
Granite Falls.
Granite Falls, I was gonna say Granite
So
Falls.
it's
Yeah.
quite
Redwood
west of
Falls,
here.
okay, Granite
Yeah.
Falls, yeah, that's a ways. That's on the
Oh,
side.
thank you.
Yeah. Anything else for the good of the order?
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Move
All
to
right.
recess.
Okay, we'll recess to Loose Moose.